She stands tall again, majestically towering over the serene Masunda Lake, a proud witness of a faith that has stood the test of time. What would these walls tell us if they could speak? Tales of long ago, of ships that sailed into a long-forgotten port, of intrepid sailors, prayerful friars, devout townspeople, of the smoke and dust of battle, of death and destruction, of hope and happiness. Yes, the story of the Church of St. John the Baptist is intricately woven into the story of Thane. This busy port on the west coast of India, like Kalyan and Supara, had a thriving trade with West Asia. What's more, Thane had early ties with Christianity. Long before the Portuguese sailed down the Thane Creek, way back in 1321, the martyrdom of the friars minor put Thane on the map of Christendom. Two centuries later came the Portuguese, and through the 16th and 17th centuries, they built 6 churches and 2 hermitages. Just one of these churches has survived to this day, the Church of St. John the Baptist. Yet when constructed by the Franciscans in 1582, it was the Friary of St. Anthony, an oratory and a place of learning, of theology and the arts, and even housed a library. The church was built in the Baroque style, popular with early churches built on limited resources, possibly leaving ample space for decoration at a later date. The facade of the church has seen many changes. Its most ornate feature was the large carved door facing the lake. It was 10 feet wide, 8 inches thick, and 15 feet in height. And it took an army of altar boys to open. The coat of arms on the west door suggests that the living spaces for the monks were probably on the west side of the church. The bell tower, unlike the one today, was initially on the north side of the church near the sanctuary, and it stood taller than any other for miles around. The gazetteer tells us that one of the 2 bells in the belfry was the biggest Portuguese bell in India. Most Baroque churches are characterized by plain exteriors and ornate interiors. By 1725, the delicately carved main altar, side altars, and pulpit reflected Baroque opulence at its best. For simple, unlettered Christians, the pictures, statues, and painted reliefs that decorated the main and side altars of the church were catechism lessons in their own right. Above the side altar, just under the canopies, panels depict scenes from the Bible, especially the miracles of Jesus. But while the Portuguese beautified their churches, they didn't do much to fortify the town. Despite warnings of attack, the construction of the fort began only in 1730. By 1737, the wall skirting the Portuguese city was still incomplete when the Marathas overpowered the fort and closed in on the city and island. The chaos of war left all the churches in ruin, including the parish church of St. John the Baptist, located opposite the town hall near Thane. But for some reason, they did not raise the Friary of St. Anthony to the ground completely. The main altar, side altars, and the roof of the sanctuary remained intact. And although major restoration work had to be undertaken, after 1737, the Franciscan Friary of St. Anthony became the parish church of St. John the Baptist. Later, under the control of the British, Thane's importance declined significantly as Bombay's economic value surged. In 1905, the church school changed from a Portuguese to an English school and opened its doors to children of all faiths. Girls began attending school in the 1930s, and in 1965, to serve the growing number of pupils, a 3-storied building was constructed on the west side of the church. The school serves generations of Thaneites, while the spaces around the old walls of the church are a happy playground for children of all ages. The roof of the church was renovated in 1910, while the encaustic marble flooring was completed in 1928. The entrance to the old parish house was changed sometime before 1960. The church underwent major renovations in 1963, while around the same time, the belfry at the north end of the church was demolished and rebuilt at the southeastern end, adorning the church's facade. The belfry was renovated again in 1992. Multiple changes down centuries had led to imbalances. Mismatched doors, asymmetrical window positioning, the main and side altars and the reticule had begun to lose its splendor. Would the Church of St. John the Baptist go the way so many historic churches of the former Salsette Island that survived war and calamity only to be torn down? Heritage churches modified to such an extent that very little of its historic or antique value remains. As the city of Thane grows, values change. The uniqueness of our visible and tangible heritage vanishes into the mist of the memories of a generation that is slowly fading. As one of the oldest surviving colonial monuments in the city, unmatched in its height and majesty, unequaled for its vaulted sanctuaries, carved doors, and gilded reticules, it was agreed that the time had come for restoration. In April 2014, the former Friary of St. Anthony, now the Church of St. John the Baptist, was closed. A team of roof specialists, masons, carpenters, electricians, polishers, light and sound experts, wood carvers, and gilders worked under expert advice and guidance. Starting with the belfry and the charming tiled roof, waterproofing, and the refitting of the original mangrove tiles, the restoration of lime-plastered walls, it was a race to beat the elements. Inside the main church, the painting, polishing of the rafters, gilding of the reticules, refitting of the pulpit canopy, reconstruction of the main door, the gentle peeling off damaging layers of oil paint on the stone arch in the sanctuary. It seemed this labor of love would go on and on. Finally, 18 months later, the church opens its carved doors again to welcome parishioners and visitors, rich and poor, old and young. The church bells will peal out joyously as it did centuries ago. The 433-year-old church walls will resound with voices raised in prayer and song. May our patron, St. John the Baptist, restore, rebuild, renew, and reinvigorate not just wood and stone, but the minds and the hearts of this vibrant Christian community.